7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. You are listening to Karen Stacy. We are getting ready for WTF with Karen and Danielle. WTF, let's talk with Karen and Danielle. And today's topic is going to be, how has social media changed us? And this is part 2 because there's so much to talk about. Last week we talked about a lot of things that, how it affected the children. If I'm not mistaken, today we're going to be discussing how it affects the adults. So make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and follow our show. Again, it's realtalkwithkarenstacy.podbean.com, or you can go to any of your favorite podcast platforms and search Real Talk Karen Stacy, and you will find all the different shows in there. So good morning, and thank you for joining us. Danielle, are you here, my love?
I am. Good morning.
How are you today?
Tired. I'm tired today.
Tired. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. No, it was, the kids were off of school. They had half day on Friday. No school yesterday.
Why?
Teacher planning day. Why not?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh.
Why not? Let's just give them a day off in the middle of nowhere. So, that always after that long weekend, you get that extra, as I call it, my sleeps, right? When they were on break, I'm like, oh, I get 14 sleeps. I'm so excited. Right? That first morning, getting them up and off to school and out the door by 6:45 is just always beats me up.
Yeah, no doubt. And then the thing is that, you go from like one routine to the other routine, which is really, like challenging because like you get used to getting up every morning and doing it, and that's part of your thing. And then they have these little breaks, and then you're like, okay, shut the alarm. And then you get used to that, and then it's back and forth. So yeah, fun stuff. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Be a grown up. Everybody rushes. Don't rush.
Yeah, I know. I know Noah always says that. Like, I'm like, yeah, this adulting stuff is not fun, at all. Yeah. And speaking of, we wanted to talk today about, with the effects of, how has social media, affected us or changed us. So we had wanted to talk about that, from the adult end, right? Because we did discuss that on with our children
Correct.
last week, right?
Yes.
So let's I'm just trying to share this out to some of our groups to see if anybody can, help us share it out and get more people involved in the conversation. So do you want to take the lead on how you feel that it has changed and affected the adults?
Well, I guess when we left off last week, we were talking about just dating and catfishing and the things that social media has done to grown-ups in this dating environment. And
Wait, I have to interrupt that thought. I think
okay.
you have to do air quotations when you say grown-ups.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
In the air right now, grown-ups in this dating situation. And
Quote unquote.
yeah, quote unquote, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they figure 18-year-olds are grown-ups at these days and age, but they're not.
I mean there are grown ass adults that are technically grown-ups, but they're grown. They're not grown-ups.
Well, I was just going to say there's actually a couple of 50-year-olds that I know that haven't grown up yet. So there's
Hello.
that. There is that. And in a perpetual state of party and single and all the things. But I have had sisters who have used social media for dating. Some have been successful, some have not been successful. but the horror stories are there, right? And whether it's you meet up a person and they're nothing like their profile, or the person just doesn't show up, or I watch this crazy show my husband makes me watch it, Catfish, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you see these poor people, especially they prey on
Yep.
the sick, the weak, the I don't want to say ugly because that's
Insecure,
not nice, the insecure, the not completely
lonely.
lonely, yes. Listen, and it's terrible to say, but there are some people that are not very aesthetically pleasing to the eye. You sit there, but there's supposed to be love for everybody, right?
Right.
So, but it goes back to, because they look at themselves in the mirror and they don't see beauty, they have all these other emotions, right? They have the depression and the loneliness, and they become introverts and they stay inside, and they don't have that hustle, that good looking guys, they come at you, right? Because they know they're good looking, right? You don't have that, like, that suave kind of attitude. So they
Game.
are game, right? They're ripe for the picking, these poor people, right? So you get a social media, you get this girl, and all of a sudden she slips into your DM and she sends you a hi, and you're like, oh my god, like, she says hi, start talking, and I watch it, and these guys, they fall in love with these girls like sight unseen, because good morning, baby, and the very elaborate scheme, like, it's they have all these pictures and all this stuff, whether they snatch it off of these girls' only fan pages or whatever, and they lead these people astray, and these guys, and sometimes girls, they
A
send
lot of times
money.
girls. A lot of times girls.
Yeah. They send money and they do things like, and put themselves in a financial hardship to try to satisfy the needs of this person, only to find out that it's some guy in the Philippines, you know, playing games with you, and
Mm-hmm.
took all your savings or something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when online dating and social media first came into play, there used to be a thing called U Date.
Craigslist. There was
What's
Craigslist.
Craigslist?
Wait,
Okay.
what did you just say? You gate?
U Date.
You date. Okay.
Yeah, you date. So you see the person's profile online and you would match with them. And then if they were online, the little text boxes. Do you remember years ago, in Yahoo, you used to have the little text boxes, and you could text people that were on Yahoo back before. It used to pop
Oh,
up
I
on your
remember
computer.
that with AOL.
Right. AOL started that, and then there was U-Date, and then what was the other one? I remember because I'd be at work and my computer would be like ping, 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 and I remember one day being so exhausted because I was like talking to 5 different guys at the same time. I'm like, oh my god, I had like speed dating with 5 guys for like the last 2 hours. It was exhausting. So trying to remember all the conversations going at once, but that was like the first look into what is happening now, right? But now it's gotten worse, right? So, sending a picture to somebody back then wasn't as easy as it is now, right? It's like snap and
True.
go now,
True.
so, um, and I
Everything is
remember, like,
downloadable now.
everything is
The
downloadable now.
whole
This is
world is
crazy.
downloadable.
Yeah, our life is going to be downloadable at some point. The government's going to come and shut us all down. Um, so, yeah, I remember, shortly after that, I met my husband, so that all stuff went out the window. But, we I talk to people who do date online, and and for the most part everybody said that it's just a hookup, really. It's just a way for people to hook up. They meet you, they think they can score with you right away. I was at i was at my birthday at dinner. I was with Denise Del Ponte, and we were in the bathroom, and the mother comes in, she's yelling at this girl, her daughter. And she's like, you just met him online. You can't be that serious about him. Blah, blah. They're talking about having like sex. And me and Denise right away, we looked at, oh no, you can't sleep with a guy you just met online. She's like, why? He's like totally hot and da 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 da. I said, because do you like him? Yes. You know, and then you don't do it. Listen, there's a rule. and it is an unwritten rule, but you just don't do it. Like if you like a guy, you don't sleep with him. Sorry, guys. And if you don't really care where the relationship's going, but we had this conversation, right? You said you slept with your husband right away. So, but
The longest one
we're
night stand, my first and only, the
one
longest
night
stand.
ever. Yeah, but the problem is that was then, right? So we're talking umpteen years ago. I'm not trying to put
Right.
right,
Right.
but
When you didn't
now,
even, right. You didn't even like meet in person, like, or anything. Yeah. It's definitely much more disconnected
right? You
now.
know, back then, you'd go to a bar, you'd exchange a look. You're like, I like this,
Yeah.
I
You
like
could
you,
feel, you
baby. You know,
smelled
you
them,
can
you touched
right,
them, you were in
you
their
can feel it
aura.
out, right? You
Yeah.
can feel it out. Now
Chemistry.
these guys they match with you online. They're like, oh well, she's online, she's got to be desperate, right? Then they take you out to dinner where they don't even want to pay because they want to do Dutch, and then they think they can fuck you afterwards. Excuse my French. And girls are okay with it. And this is where this society and this whole online dating and this social media thing is going, because a guy will search a girl's media. I was out with my husband this weekend. We ran into these two boys from college. You want to call them men, right? Because they're grown up and they're in their 20s, but they're not. And one of them was like, I hate social media. He was like 21 years old. I hate social media.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm over it. He's like, these girls are disgusting. He goes, it's all these thirst trap pictures. They're showing off their bodies to anybody who would look, all for a like, all for a heart, all for this, all for that. He's like, girls nowadays are nasty. You know, he had a girlfriend. She was very nice. And he's like, I'm looking for a wife. I'm 21 years old and I'm looking for a wife. The other boy that was with him, he's just like, I have a girlfriend. She's a virgin. He's like, it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? That's what he says. Like, oh, great. I laugh. So, but he goes, but she's not out there. He goes, so I give her my attention. He goes, because all these other train wrecks, they're out there. They're putting they got thongs on. They got bathing suits that barely cover their nipples. He goes, they're all partying all over the place, hanging out with a million guys. He goes, what do you think I think of them? And that's what 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 everybody. It doesn't matter if you're young or old. That's what everybody thinks. You know, so it's very easy for an adult person who works too hard, has no social life, maybe divorced, you know, feeling lonely to fall victim to something like this.
Well,
Social
and,
media
and
is terrible.
they're not, and a lot of them aren't divorced. A lot of them
Oh,
are
right.
married
Oh, yeah. Yes,
and
right.
they're unhappily married and want you to, be their, salvation, or their fun thing or whatever. But, let's digress for a second. Do you think, so let's think about this though. So I think that there were a lot of people I know growing up, people did dress a certain way. People did do all of these things that you just mentioned. But there was no social media to post it on. So I
Right.
can remember, I mean, you and I didn't hang out when we were, in
Yeah,
our
but
early 20s,
the
but
neighborhood grapevine was just as bad as any
hello. So
Instagram.
that's why I'm saying that it's not any different. It's just that people, it reaches a wider audience. So in other words, like we grew up, for anybody that doesn't know and is just tuning into us, we grew up in the Bronx and we grew up in an area where everybody knew everybody. Now I always was under the radar because I didn't really hang out in the neighborhood, but the neighborhood people all had their own reputation. And there were people, I always tell the story, I'll say it again. There was one guy that had cribs, that I had heard about, and everybody in the neighborhood had cribs after that because everybody was banging everybody. So,
Yes.
it's just that there's no evidence of
Yeah.
the putanas, but everybody was out there. They were all doing it, and women have dressed a certain way and have put themselves out a certain way forever. But
Yeah, I mean,
now
you knew all the easy girls in the neighborhood
you
because the
know.
guys were not subtle. They even said, "Oh, that's one." You know,
I
they used to
banged that
call her
one
like,
last week, and
yeah,
that
or
one
that one's
she was
a
blowing.
rabbit. Yes,
Yeah,
it was
she was
she was
blowing me in the car. Yeah, all of that, right?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, and those were called reputations, right? I don't even know what we call it now, but
I don't even know.
what has happened with social media is that people need validation. So we talked about this last week a little bit, right? We touched upon the likes and
Right.
well, I mean, an adult had said to me, well, I didn't know that you see my posts because you never liked them. And I was like, I just really don't like, sometimes I hit the button, sometimes I don't. I use social media because of my shows and my events, and I use it more, for that type of stuff. I don't use it, so much for my personal stuff. So, if I come up to something and I scroll for a few minutes and I happen to see it in the feed, then I happen to see it. But it's not like I'm on there for 6 hours trying to, look into everybody's life. And
Right.
so if we're basing our, validity on someone else's attention towards us, it's a really sad place to be. So now you have a lot of people, right, that they do all these filters. So now you're taking pictures. I mean, there are pictures that I see of people and like, the filter is on and it's some crazy ass filter because when you look at the guy, they're perfect. So that the guy don't have makeup on. So you see those type of things. And this is the society we live in now. So when you do see somebody face to face, they look different. And I don't know if that's good or bad, meaning for self-esteem, if you continually look at pictures of yourself where you've filtered them so that you look the best that you can look, then maybe that's good for your self-esteem to think to feel better about yourself. Because if you feel better about yourself, then you're going to put that energy out there that you are. Maybe these people don't feel that they're very attractive. Maybe they have problems with their skin. And when they put these filters on, their skin looks nicer and it's more perfect. So now they feel more
10 years
confident.
younger.
They feel more
10 years
confident
younger.
about themselves, right? I don't know if that's good or bad. Because to me, it's perpetrating the fraud and it's a
It's
false
false
sense of,
advertising.
and that as well, like especially on a dating app and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
Again, like anything else, social media has a time and a place. The dating apps have a time and a place, but the problem is that people have lost the ability to be in person and be present. So I'll give you an example. I was doing an event and it was like a sweet 16. All the girls were on the dance floor and the guys were all sitting at a table swiping on Bumble. And I'm like,
Right.
is this normal? Like, are you kidding me right now? You're out and you want to meet women and there are 20 women in front of you and you have no game. So people have game on the app, I guess, because they're keyboard, wizards.
People warriors, right? Warriors.
And in person, they got no game.
Yes.
So like people have even less social skills now. Like I literally was like, well, grabbing people by the hand. Let me introduce you to so and so. Come say hello. And I made the introduction. And guess what? The conversation lasted 8 seconds. I'm like, wow, got nothing to say, huh? You get introduced as a man, you get introduced to a pretty girl. Talk. As a woman, you get introduced to a hot guy. Talk. Like, where are we now? Like, I literally, it's like, how, and I know you do it too. I'm sure you do it. I text my son upstairs because
Yes,
I'm not walking up the stairs. And like, they have their headphones on. So I'm banging on the kid's door and he don't answer the door.
I old school. I scream up the stairs like if I was in the projects.
Right, but I'm saying is he don't hear me. He doesn't even hear me when I'm at his door knocking because he got the headsets on, so he can't hear.
Right.
So like we even are texting people that we're standing next to or in the same house as because we're freaking lazy, to make those connections. And now when we're in person with people, we're not making those person to person connections. And that is one of the answers to how has social media changed us, because everything is via text. I mean, and let's think about it. It is a hell of a lot easier to convey what you have to say when you type it than it is when you verbalize it.
Yeah, but sometimes it comes out so misconstrued. Like,
No,
people like,
not sometimes,
and
always.
and then people are like, I'm like, that's not how, they'll be like, that's not how I meant it. Well, that's how I read it,
Right. Well, and that's, so me personally, I'm very clear with those things. When I read something and I'm like, whoa, I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you mean by that? Because your knee-jerk reaction is, oh, really? Well, you can go fuck yourself then. But that wasn't really what they meant. So, like, for instance, I was talking to somebody and they text me, hi, Karen, goodbye, Karen. And I'm like, huh? So I text them back. I'm like, huh? And they were like, oh no, I didn't mean it to be misconstrued or whatever. I said, you know what? I didn't take it that way. I'm from the Bronx. We used to do that a lot. Hello, goodbye. Like, it was a hello,
Yeah.
goodbye. It was like a thing that we would say. So I kind of was thinking that could have been what you meant. But like, you need to be clear, because sometimes you type something and then you have to read it back and say, oh, well, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me just explain to you what I meant by that. Like, I didn't
Right.
mean this. This is what I meant. But what I'm saying is that, like, for me, for instance, when I really have to say something to somebody and it's an emotional thing, sometimes it's hard for me to articulate and get the words out because the emotion gets in the way. So if you write it down, sometimes it's just easier to say it to somebody, but you should physically read it to them as opposed to just sending it via text, because you lose so much in translation, like you just said.
Right.
So I think that it's a great way to miscommunicate. And
Yeah.
it's also,
I miss the days when people would actually have to pick up the telephone,
yeah,
and talk. Like you said, you do text messages and stuff like that. I have had, situations, and I'm sure you have had too, where you have misunderstandings with people, and the conversation, they won't pick up the phone and call you. And of course, you're headstrong. You won't pick up the phone and call them. And then the conversation goes over through back and forth through text, back and forth through text. And it doesn't amount to anything. The only thing you do is you walk away from that text and you're like, all right, well, that's done. And because you, like I said, there's no heart, there's no emotion in it anymore. And social media has single-handedly destroyed
desensitized.
and desensitized how people communicate and how they get to meet, get together, develop friendships, relationships. It's terrible. It really
Perpetrating
is,
the fraud.
because you have, like you said, guys and girls, you have them in relationships, but yet they'll swipe on Bumble and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go meet up with this girl and smash it for like 2 hours, and meanwhile they just dropped off their girlfriend or whatever, and they can that, and that's just the thing. Like, who does that? Apparently, a lot of people, by the way. And I just don't get it. I don't feel like anybody has respect for themselves anymore.
You know what? I'm going to
Girls.
interrupt that thought, though. I don't think it has to do with having respect for yourself. I think in certain cases that might be the case, but in other cases, for instance, we know a lot of very strong women, and they feel that all they need from a man is, his piece for deal. So they feel that
True.
they're in control. And you know what? I want to
Yeah,
get
but that
laid.
random guy will come into your room and kill you. I'm not down with that. I know people who
Again,
do it, and I'm just like, well,
Again, you don't know that for sure. It depends. Sometimes you could feel out people and this guy is just a boy toy and whatever. I mean, everybody's different. And usually when people are like that, it's because they come from a hurt place, or, like, especially a woman. That's not the way women are made, if you will, right? We're made to mate. We're made to, like, be nurturing. We're not made to be the aggressor. We're not made to be the hunter. And what has
Right.
happened in society is that women have now become this huntress, and they are, badass bitches and
Well,
bosses, and they're
right.
going to do the same thing to a man that a man's going to do to a woman.
Well,
And it's
in the
funny.
jungle, the lionesses do all the hunting. You know that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there's so many blurred lines, everywhere. It really just depends on what you're looking for. I think that if you have like-minded people, then it's an unspoken, no. You know what I like, there's just an unspoken, connection, if you will. So I think that that has a lot to do with it. If you are not with like-minded people, then it's never going to work correctly. So like going back to the neighborhood, right? So, for the neighborhood that, Danielle and I were raised in was, yeah, like you need, and this is your mentality that you just, verbalized a little while ago. If you're gonna, you got to make the guy have blue balls, they gotta, like, it's respect and you can't be easy and blah, 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 right? And that's the mentality. That was the mentality. Meanwhile, my husband and I, when we met, literally, I think, I don't know, I don't even remember. Maybe it was the first time we met. I ended up driving him home and like we fooled around in the car. Like I never did that in my life. Again, I was 21,
Hmm.
so I was young and stupid and, all of that. But um that was like not something that you did, but he didn't think any less of me because we did that, because we were both on the same page. And as I recall, he was cheating on his girlfriend at the time too. So, there was a lot of, messed up things that were going on at that time, but like-minded people accept one another for who they are. But if you're going onto a different level, sometimes to me, it's a game, and so there are a lot of people. I read stuff on social media, right? So there are these dating groups on Facebook, dating after 50, dating over 40, dating whatever. And people say, what do you call it if you have, sex on the first date? So a lot of people will say, like, you're a grown adult. If you feel it, do it.
Right.
Life is short. So I think that it's all about expectations. So the expectation, if you meet this person and they're a random person and, that person isn't in alignment with you, then you should have, your only expectation is to make sure that, you have good sex. And then you keep it moving, right? But if your expectation is that you want something to grow from this, then you have to say to yourself, well, which way do I want to go? What direction do I want to go
Right.
with this? I think it's expectations, and it's the same thing on social media. What is your expectation when you're posting something? Is your expectation to get validated, that people tell you that you're pretty, that people tell you that you're handsome, that people tell you that you're right, that people agree with you, that people, you know what I mean? Like, it's, what is the expectation? What validation do you need? If you need, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, right? You were saying how you get dressed and you want to look good. And yes, it's a bonus if your husband thinks you look good. And it's a bonus if whomever else maybe compliments you. But when you're walking out of the door, you dress the way you dress, you do your hair the way you do your hair, you work out the way you work out, you do all of those things for you, not for what other people perceive you as.
Correct.
So
But
this,
on the flip side, I went out this weekend, had a great time, and but the music was more along the lines of music that I enjoy opposed to what my husband enjoys. So I
uh,
was dancing. I was dancing. And my husband was like, "Oh, you were putting on a show." You know? He's like, and every now and again, sometimes you don't even realize that you do this, right? But you're dancing, and then you kind of look up, and there's a group of people that are always in a certain area. And he's like, and I saw you look over there a few times to see if they were looking. Do you need validation from them? And I'm like, what are you talking about? but that's how he perceived it. And I don't even think like that. I'm just dancing, my head's flipping this way, whatever, that way. And, and yeah, as you're dancing and you're moving, whatever, you look to your left, you look to your right. But that's
Especially if you're doing
what,
the Danielle move, because the Danielle move
yes.
goes right and left. I have her dance down, but you don't do it as often anymore. You used to do it. You don't do it as much
Because I
now.
have bad knees now. I can't go down that far.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. How times have changed.
I know. My husband said the same thing. He's like, you don't go all the way down when you swish anymore. I said, I can't. My knees are terrible. So, like, I catch myself. I go halfway down, and then my knees go, go ahead, keep trying, because your ass is going to be on the floor in about 2 seconds. And so I listen to my knees, and I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So, I'm doing my thing, whatever. And every now and again, I would look, and sometimes, once they were looking, whatever. But my husband's like, do you need validation? Like, it doesn't make you feel good. He's like, and then it goes into, you don't think their wives like you, and you wonder why, because look at the way you're dancing. That's what he said to me. I'm like, first of all, the way I dance is the way I dance. I'm not going to change how I dance. I'm not going to do like the 2-step side to side to appease and somebody else's wife who does not dance. Listen, I'm your wife. That's all that matters. Did you like the way I was dancing? Yeah. But people think that you're trying to like showboat. You're trying to get attention. You're
Yeah.
trying to do all these things.
Well, because there are, on the flip side of that, because there are a lot of people that do that for validation. So, it's really, like I said, I think, it's like our old, school mentality, like they always said in the neighborhood, take it from where it comes from. I mean, if you're that type of person, when you're a confident person that owns who and what they are, and when you walk in the room, your presence precedes you, you don't do shit for validation. You do
Right.
it because you are you. So, this is what I'm trying to say, is that this is what social media, and this is what, these filters and posting pictures and stuff. And it's also, again, perception, what people want you to see. So for anybody that's just tuning in right now, thank you for joining us. You are listening to WTF Let's Talk with Danielle and Karen. And we are on a part 2 of how has social media changed us. So if you're listening, please hit that heart button, check in, say hello. If you have anything to add, please add it, comment, we can discuss it. If you're catching this on the replay, make sure you follow. It's Real Talk with Karen Stacy.podbean.com, or you can listen to us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. So that was what I wanted to get into as well, is what I think that social media does is it also, you develop a false sense of self, a false sense of reality, like what we spoke about last week, how, I knew somebody whose, husband was out all night, and she was a nervous wreck and didn't know what he was up to. And the next day she posted, a dozen roses and said, oh my God, my husband sent me roses. So that's, that's a perception, so that we want people to think that life is a certain way. People see my stuff on social media, and, people that I know will say, oh, it looks like everything is great. You're so busy, yada, yada. And even you, I haven't caught up with you. You have no idea what was going on, behind those pictures. And like I said, that was me, smiling behind the tears. But you
I'm
know
sure
what?
it was networking and a lot of, yeah.
That is not what people don't want to know that. Now, there's a difference between hiding what you're going through and perpetrating the fraud, and just choosing not to share certain things with strangers. So this is the part that people go, I think there's a line there that people don't really get. So if you just want to share the positive things, especially depending on what you're looking to do, that's one thing. And you want to make a little bit of a footprint of yourself, and share good times. That's one thing. But there are also a lot of people that are doing it for attention. And people that post things like, I can't take it anymore. I need to end my life, or whatever, and post it on social media. That's a cry for help. Now, is it
Oh, yeah.
good that they're crying for help? Probably, but I don't know. Like, it's sad. And so again, they need validation that someone cares about them. And
Right. Well, right. Because if they have to post it, you sit back and you wonder, do they have anybody in their lives that, you know, that they even can even turn to, that they have, stop it. Sorry. That they have to put it out there for the whole world to see.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So now it's also, I'm going to say it, it's also a false sense of security, because everybody's going to pray for you, and everybody's going to, well, maybe they're not going to physically pray for you, but they're going to put a prayer thing up in the comments. But like, then what they just did has no bearing on whatever it is that you're going through. Now, is there the random person that may actually reach out and may actually help save your life because they validated you, and maybe there is somebody that really cares and they're going to do the right thing? But like, people believe what they see on social media. So they believe the filters. They believe the I have a happy marriage. They believe that, they're worthy or they're unworthy. So what's just messed up is that I've never been the type of person, like, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And there are a lot of people that do not say what they mean and they do not do what they say. And social media is a perfect place to perpetrate the fraud.
Yes, agreed.
So I think that what it's done for us is created a false sense of everything. I mean, like, I don't like,
Yeah, well, it is. It's a lot of things. And jealousy, unfortunately, envy is terrible because, you'll see people that you grew up with, and they're excelling and they're doing fantastic, and you think, well, what the hell did he do that I didn't do right? Like, why am I still stuck here? And he's like living in the big house, and he's this and he's that. I mean, well, you guys were hanging on the corner together, doing the same thing, but his direction took a left and yours took a right, and people sit back sometimes and they look and they're like, and it's a shame. Am I am proud of everybody. See, I don't think I'm envious at all. And if somebody is successful and they are thriving, good for you, fantastic, good for you, but not everybody feels that way.
Well, that is true. There's a lot of envy and jealousy, and people, like, so even, listen, in the business that I'm in, it's as cutthroat as they come. And I always just feel like everybody can just stay in their lane. There's enough in life, and this goes with everything. This is why, like, I am not I know people that, are married or in a relationship with somebody, and who's doing what and this, that, and the other. Listen, whatever you choose to do is your own business. But my feeling is there are enough men and women in this world that you can pick from one that doesn't call somebody theirs. So like, even when you break up with somebody, now don't get me wrong, as you get older, especially, the circles get much and much smaller. So the people that you can meet become less and less and less. So, if there is a person that maybe was with somebody and they broke up with them, and now you have the opportunity to perhaps be with this person, there's a right way to do it, especially if you knew their ex. Maybe it's kind of like, hey, I don't want any hard feelings, just wanted to let you know that, me and, your ex are talking, or whatever the case may be. I don't think that there's a reason to step on people's toes. And I think that what has happened is that people they don't stay in their own lane. There's no like mutual human respect, and people will just step on top of somebody else for their own gain. And whether it's ego driven, whether it's, like hormone driven, whether it's financial, people will just do what they got to do to get what they want, and they will talk the talk until you start walking the walk.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you see that, but I mean, like,
I do.
it's just
I,
like you just said, the envy and the jealousy, and you don't even know what's behind it.
right. Well, it's funny. I had a conversation with somebody a couple of months ago, and they were talking about, oh my God, did you hear that so and so's now dating so and so's ex-wife and so and so? And I'm like, the neighborhood is so incestual. Like everybody is with everybody, or everybody's hooked up with somebody else's ex, or somebody, and they don't leave the bubble. They just don't leave the bubble. They all just kind of like passing each other amongst each other, and I think that's too much for me. I don't like that.
Well, but all of them are like that, if you think about it, because, I grew up in the Bronx, and then I moved in Westchester, and there are all similar groups that all do the same stuff. It's just like you said, it's being in the small pond. So, there are big fish in small ponds, and a lot of people don't want to be the little fish in a big pond. And again, there's certain protocols, there's certain ways that you have to go about things, for sure. That is the reason why, and you always laugh at me when you come into New York and you want to go out, I say to you, let's get out of Dodge. And you laugh but I prefer that, because that is, people poke into things that is none of their business, and everybody talks about everybody. And it's annoying because, then you see pictures, you see this, you see that. You never know what the real deal is. And that's why I'm a firm believer of, like, let's, what's up? What's going on with that? Like, and a lot of people, it's just a persona. So I can't express enough to people, stop looking through other people's windows. You have no idea what's really going on in that place. So that person that you were saying was from the neighborhood, that grew up with you and with all of us, and you see that they took a different direction. You have no idea what it took them to get that
Them to get in
direction.
that direction. That's right.
They
But
could have
yet
gone to
somebody,
jail. They could have gone to jail for their boss. They could have held on to a freaking secret and covered for their boss. And when they got out of jail, they were put on a seat, on the stock exchange, because they kept their mouth shut. This is
yeah,
how things happen, and you
happens.
don't
Yeah,
know. So you
that's
know
right.
what? If that's what works for you, and getting up that ladder is worth whatever, sacrifice you made, then God bless, but a lot of times you don't know what went on, and you don't know how they got that big house, and you don't know if their wife is fucking the neighbor. You don't know.
Right. That's right.
So, and that's
All
the
you see
thing.
is the perception of the picture they posted for you to like. That's all you
Correct.
see.
Correct. Which is why influencers are huge now, because they are a persona that they put up there, and this is what people follow. There's a lot of, people talk. I see men all the time on social media commenting about women, how they got fake nails, they got fake eyelashes, they got fake hair, they got fake boobs, they got fake lips, they got fake asses, whatever the case may be. But yet, a lot of women aspire to this. When you see women, I mean, and I see it all the time now, and I see people, in real life, and really the lips are getting bigger and bigger. Everything is just becoming like a caricature. And
Well,
this,
that also goes to all the things that we've seen growing up, right? They sexualize women, and the boys, they put the posters up, and girls grow up and they go, oh my God, this one's a sex symbol, that one's a sex symbol. I want to look like that. I want to look like that. Guys are striving. It started with the girls with the big behinds, and the next thing you know, everybody started doing it because that's what guys like. But when you realize, I saw a video a couple of weeks ago when the guys were like, we don't like that. We
yeah,
like it because it's fun,
right.
but it's
It
like a
looks
rental
good.
car, right? It's
It
like a
looks
rental
good.
car we use, but that's not the kind of girl we're gonna wipe up. We're gonna play with it, and we're gonna send
Right.
it on its way.
But see, now here's where the plot thickens at, 50 plus. with the people that are divorced or widowed or the ones that never got married in the first place. First, that, I guess, they're not looking to wife up. Not, I guess. I know. After you get divorced and you've been going through whatever, or you've been through shit, you ain't looking to wife up. I mean, me personally, I believe in the sanctity of marriage 1,000%. But at 53 years old and, being alone for the past 9 years after losing my husband, I even in the initial, if I wasn't going to have my son, like, that's the reason you get married. You get married to have children. You can be with somebody and be committed to them. You don't need a ring on your finger. Does it make it easier legally and stuff like that? Of course. And, it's the right thing to do. But at 50 something years old, when you're not looking for the future, if you will, you're looking for the present and maybe whatever can develop in the future, maybe that look of, that sex appeal or whatever is what's drawing men in, because they're not looking to stay. They're looking, and women as well. You see a hot guy, and I hate to say it, sorry fellas, but the ratio between hot women to hot men, men will let themselves go, and they get the bellies and they get whatever.
They should try. They worry about fake butts and fake boobs. They should go for fake abs.
So I'm just saying that, there are women are really going above and beyond to take care of themselves and to look better. And whether they're doing it, in the doctor's office or they're doing it at the gym, they're striving to be a better, to be that symbol.
I follow like a plastic surgery page, and women, I mean, the amount of women changing their bodies on a daily basis is insane.
Well, it's an addiction, and you're always striving for perfection. And unfortunately, perfection is within. Perfection is not on the outside, it's on the inside. So you're going to continue to search for something that you're never
but you
going
also
to
have
find.
these women whose bodies get destroyed, and I say destroyed, guys, while having children for you.
That's different.
And then the husband turns and says, well, no, I'm not attracted to you anymore because your body is a mess. And then they wind up with a younger girl with with a body that they'll ruin eventually because they're having children. And these women, it takes an emotional turn on you. Like, you're like, holy shit. And you look at yourself, and you are. Right? Your boobs are saggy, your belly is loose, your butt's big, and you're like, oh my God. And that's because you gave life to these beautiful children, but in the end, you lost yourself. So, I mean, getting the plastic surgery, putting their bodies back together again.
Yeah. You know what? Listen, do me a favor, talk for a minute, because there's somebody at my door. I'm going to mute. So keep talking.
Okay.
How do I mute? I don't even know how to mute.
Down at the bottom, you mute.
Down at the bottom.
Did you find it?
No.
Down by your,
right.
Put your message.
You know what? I'm going.
All right, just go.
Keep talking.
I'm talking. So, we talk about that, right? These women, they keep trying and they keep trying to empower themselves, and social media keeps pushing, right? You have Kim Kardashian, you have all of these women who change their bodies on a dime, right? They've got big boobs, they've got big butts, they got small waists. Who's taking out a rib? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And then now the trends are changing, right? Now the butts are coming out and the boobs are getting smaller, and it's more of an athletic look. And, women just can't keep up with it. But social media tells us, like Karen said, you have all these influencers. They do makeup, they do hair, where we are programmed to try to be beautiful, one better than change your eye color, do this, do that. I can't tell you the things that I see, and I watch my daughters as they, and I know, don't fall for it.
Trickle
don't fall
down.
for it,
Trickle down.
And, and social media doing all that. Mommy, can I get blue contacts? No. Meanwhile, I did green contacts when I was in my 20s, so I'm watching everything recycled.
20s, right? Not 13.
Right. But I'm watching everything recycle, and I'm like, oh my God, really? And again, we didn't have social media really to influence us. We had Cosmo magazine and Cosmopolitan. We had all these other magazines, Vogue, and things like that we used to read. But yeah, social media it's wrecking the image, because men, they want these women, they want these beautiful women, right? And like you said, they'll cheat on their wives, or they'll get catfished by the dude in the Philippines, because somewhere along the lines, as they're sitting there overworked and overweight, they think, I should have the hot girl, instead of appreciating the wife that you have, who's cooking your dinner and cleaning your house, taking care of your kids, and making sure your life functions. And
Yes, but I have to interrupt that thought, because we did talk about this, right? That there are also the wives or husbands that let themselves go completely, and then there's that, but again, it's a lot of that can become hormonal. Women do suffer from depression sometimes after the children, right? We talked about all of this before. So,
yeah,
there are different reasons, and,
but listen, but in a man's defense, then you have men who are
doing their
very
best.
supportive. They're doing
Yeah.
it, and they're supportive, and they look at their wives and like, baby, you want to get your body fixed? Go ahead. Go for it. I love you, and I want you to feel good about yourself. And then the wife feels great, and then she looks at the husband and says, like, he's a mess, and I look fabulous, and I'm going to go out now and find myself a new guy. So, it's such a vicious circle, whether the circle is going clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't really matter. We are so, I want to say, overstimulated by all of this information, this false information that we're taking in all the time on social media, that it's destroying lives. It really is.
Yeah.
The
And,
thing about,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go.
No. Yeah, no, I mean, it's, again, this is why I think it was important for us to talk about this, because, I always try to give people a different way of looking at things, a different objective. And, you know, the, the whole thing is that it's all perception. And so if you have, when what you're looking at and what is in actuality are not always the same thing. And there are some people that are honest, and then there are some people that are just perpetrating the fraud. And it's funny, because I was speaking to someone the other day, and they were like, you know what? You got to just do things as though you're this, and that. And, people can't know that you're struggling. People can't know this. People can't know that. And, I understand, and we were raised that way. And that is really like people from our generation. And I was having this with another person. I was having this conversation. Our generation, we were raised like, buck up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't, don't ever let anybody see you cry, and keep it moving. And you tell everybody, you don't air your dirty laundry. You don't speak about your family. You don't do any of those things. Right. And we were taught to be strong, and we are. But then like, for instance, for myself, and I know you experienced this when you had lost your father. When I lost my husband, the strength I had was just to get out of bed in the morning. And I would
Same
literally
here.
just be hysterically crying in the middle of nowhere. I would be in the supermarket and just start crying. I would be driving my car and start crying, and people would see me and look like, oh my God, what's wrong with this person? And I recognized that, you know what? Nothing happened to me. Like, I wasn't, like, if you think that I'm weak because you see me cry, then you have no idea what strength actually is. And I say this to people. It is harder to show, vulnerability than it is to be a tough guy. Because being a tough guy is easy, because all you're doing is pushing all that stuff away. But showing somebody that you actually have emotions, not only does it prove how strong you are, but it also proves that you own who and what you are. And you're not trying to pretend that you're okay. And I can't do that. Like people would, oh, how you doing? And I would always tell, yeah, no, I'm good. But like when I remember people having to teach me what to say when somebody would say to me after my husband died, oh, well, how are you doing? And I want to look at them and go, are you like, what's wrong? How am I doing? How the fuck do you even ask me that question? And like, me, I'll answer the question and you don't want to hear the answer to the question. So they would say to me, you have to say as good as can be expected. And I would rehearse that so that I could say it, because I don't perpetrate the fraud. If I'm not okay, I'm not okay. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to say it, whatever. But, there are certain people that you have to keep your full face on. And then there are other people that you can be yourself. But in my opinion, until you've been brought down to your knees by some type of a tragedy that has gone on in your life, you will never understand that. And when you go through these tragedies, it makes you who and what you are. And every single day you will become a better person if you grow from it. If you become resentful and you go into a dark place and you're the victim, then you never will. So know who and what you are, so that whatever you're portraying on social media, or, your pictures or your inbox or whatever, you just got to know what's going on. I mean, and that's as real talk as it comes, because everybody is out there trying to perpetrate the fraud. Now, again, you don't want to show that you're a goddamn mess, but at the same token, you can't own something that you don't own.
So don't post pictures of you crying like, oh my God, my life is terrible. No, don't do that.
Right. And that's the other part, right? The martyr, the victim. If, people don't even read what they write sometimes. You could see, how many people end up in somebody's inbox. And if you don't say anything, they have a conversation with themselves. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but
15 texts later.
Yes. Yeah, if you don't engage with somebody, or it's like a one word thing, you will get a whole dissertation afterwards. And you're like, wow, like it took 5 minutes for this person to show me exactly who they were.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Got it. And so, that's that's a whole other, story. But again, we want people to be as real as they can possibly be. And if you do something because it makes you feel better, then God bless, and it's all good. But if you're living off of the validation of others via social media or anything, then you're doing things for the wrong reason. Like I said the other show, if you're donating to charity just so you can post that you donated to charity, then you're not getting the value of what donating to charity really is about.
Correct.
And that's where I think the lines go askew. So what would be your closing argument on this topic, Danielle?
Closing argument on this topic. My dog is bothering me. So, listen, sit back, really reflect, look at yourself, look at your surroundings, try to really appreciate the blessings that you have around you. And yes, not everything might be perfect, but it is what you have. Like I said, I know people, they pretend they'll be sitting on the couch and they'll pull a video from like 3 years ago that nobody remembers, and they'll post it just to make it look like they're out there having themselves a good time. My father used to say, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, right? Right. So it does, just because somebody posted it doesn't make it true. So don't live your life based off of somebody else. Try, we're smart. Use your common sense. Don't fall victim and prey to social media, because, it does prey on you every single day. Did you watch that show? What was that show on Netflix? What's the name of that movie where the social experiment? Did you see it?
I did not.
It came out like 2 or 3 years ago. And basically it shows how, it shows people at computers, but it's about social media. And it shows how these computers, like, oh, if you put down your phone, it says, oh, so-and-so's not active. Let me send them a poke, or let me send them this, or let me send them that. And they do these things to continue to engage you on your phone to pull you in. Because that's where they want us, right? They want us dumb and they want us stupid and they want us looking in our phone and not paying attention to what's happening around in the real world.
Yep.
We're smart, right? We're Gen X. We're smarter than the other ones. Stay with it and stay focused.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we're that smart because I keep saying that the phones are getting smarter and smarter and the people are getting dumber and dumber. So,
oh my God. So I just saw a video that the new iPhone update will tell people, like if you're on FaceTime with someone, it'll tell people like, oh, so-and-so scrolling on X right now, which used to be Twitter, right?
Uh-huh.
So so if you're FaceTiming with somebody, you know how you minimize your picture and like you're gonna be scrolling or looking at something online, it gives like little alerts, or it notifies you of like if you put somebody in your phone as like, don't answer the call, this one's a jerk or whatever, it shows the actual how you actually have their name. It was a bunch of stuff that I just saw. I'm going to send you the video, but they're making it almost impossible to have any anonymity. You
Yeah,
know what I
you
mean?
say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. I feel like Nemo. And like I said, these phones are getting smarter and smarter, and they're stealing more and more of our privacy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we're getting taken over for sure. So,
we are.
that's why
And you have to learn how to put it down. I try my best to take my phone, and at night when I'm sitting with my husband watching a show or dealing with my kids, I try to just put it down because it can consume you.
Yeah.
Think about it's the first thing. You set your alarm clock on it. You roll over in the morning. The first thing you do is you open your phone. You start scrolling. Did anybody send me messages?
Yep.
Did anybody this? Did anybody that?
Yeah. And then the worst part is that especially if you work, you're accessible to people 24/7. Like I have people that are reaching out to me at 11 o'clock at night or at like 9:30 on a Sunday morning. Like what? Don't text me at that time. You're not my fucking friend. Like, and my friends know not to do that. So like, who does business at 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday?
I don't accept phone calls at 9 o'clock in the morning
No,
on the
me
weekend.
neither. But I'm just trying to say that because of the phone and social media or whatever it is, everybody is accessible 24/7 and people don't, there's, look, when we grew up, right, there was etiquette. You're not allowed to call somebody after a certain period of time, and it
Yeah,
depended.
remember when you used to answer the phone like somebody better be dead because I don't know why you're calling me.
Right, because after 10 o'clock at night, you're not allowed to, reach out to somebody. It's not appropriate. Now people will reach out to you at any given time.
Yeah, that was that BlackBerry. The BlackBerry did that.
Did it?
Yeah, because I remember at work I used to have my phone and stuff like that. But remember, we also had minutes, right? So we couldn't talk until after 7 o'clock because that's when it was cheaper. And
That's true.
when the BlackBerry came out, and all of a sudden your job was able to text you and send you emails at all given hours of the night, it was terrible.
Well, an email is a little different. It's, that's different because, the email usually, a text message goes right to your phone. An email, if you're not the person that checks your emails every 3 seconds, they're in there and that doesn't, affect. But
and you remember the next help?
Yes. Well, that was the walkie-talkie. Yeah. But
yes, and they send an alert if you didn't answer your phone.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. No, I mean, I'm just saying that everybody has become completely accessible. And again, we spoke about this, for part 1, that by doing so, you're allowing people into your living room. So you really just have to be careful. Stranger danger. You got to be aware of, who you are corresponding with. Like you were saying in the beginning of the show, it could be somebody in freaking Nigeria that's working you, pulling on your heartstrings to get money out of you.
And remember also, there's facial recognition everywhere. So if you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing and somebody's panning the room with their camera, they are going to catch you.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other show, but yeah, I hear you.
But social, like you said, social media, doesn't matter what you're doing. If there's always somebody panning the room, always. And I tell my girls, I just had this conversation with my daughters yesterday. Social media does not go away. You think you can delete it. It doesn't matter. It will go. You have companies that can do deep dives. They find everything. I tell my daughters, before you post anything, re-watch it. Don't watch it as who you are. Watch as an outside person. If you're a boy, if you're a college administrator, if you're somebody that would watch that and think, do not post that post.
Yeah.
Okay? Because this, where we're living in a place now where everything will follow you into the future.
Yep.
Everything, and people don't get it. Like you see all these things, these girls, they're doing this, they're drinking, they're twerking, and I'm like, oh my God, like I like my stomach gets like, and I look at my daughters, I'll strangle you,
Yep.
And they're like, Mom, we're not going to do it. But listen, there will be a point in time, you may not want to do it, but you might be having fun one night and your friend decides to videotape you and she posts it.
Right, because she doesn't have a person that's explaining to her. I mean, listen, you have a lot of videos in your phone. I can think of one in particular, that if you posted that on social media, I would laugh hysterically because I don't really give a shit and it was harmless. But yes, if that was viewed by people, they would definitely have a lot to say about it. Which again, I own, but we all, we all have those things. And, that's all learning how to be a good friend and a good human, is that you don't do that. That's
right. Yeah. You took the video, you look back, you laugh at it, but you don't post it. It's
but
just
you
there
don't
for
post it
amusement
for
purposes. You don't
everybody
post it.
to
That's
judge
right.
or whatever. So, in closing, I think everybody should just keep social media, at bay, if you will. Don't take it so seriously. Don't do things for validation. If you are finding yourself doing these things for validation, really go deep inside of yourself
Try
to
to
understand.
reassess.
Right, to understand why you feel the need for that validation. When it's harmless fun, it's harmless fun. But when it's like, you're basing your identity off of it, you need to check yourself. So
Nope.
I hope everybody has a great week. Happy Tuesday. Thank you guys for tuning in to WTF Let's Talk with Karen and Danielle. We thank everybody that tuned in. I see that Mick D07 said that he saw, I guess, the same thing on Netflix that you had spoken of. So thank you guys for the comments. And remember, you can always catch it on the replay. And we will see you next Tuesday. Have a great day.